All righty, good Wednesday afternoon to you. Welcome in the Chico Borman Show here on the Big Play Sports Network. Good to have you along with you until 2 o'clock. We do this show each and every day, Monday through Friday, on the Big Play Sports Network, where we broadcast live from Burke Lakefront Airport. You can find us on Twitter, all across social media. You can stream the show live at Chico Show CLE. You can also do so on YouTube. Go to the YouTube and not the YouTube. It would just be YouTube. If you type in the YouTube.
Go to your tubes.
Go. That didn't go over the air. Say it again, Boone.
Chico, you got to go to your tubes.
Why are my headphones not working? Or is your mic not working?
Just quiet?
Yeah, you're like from way far away. What's going on? You all right? You good? Good.
It's because of the other show. They were using.
Oh, yeah. The engineers are only here for. They're not here for the show. we don't have that. It's all right. Anyway.
Can you hear me now?
Gotcha. Can I hear you now?
Bam!
Loud and clear, Boone. Loud and clear.
Go to your tubes.
Go to your tube. Ooh, that's really, really loud. Can you turn just a little bit? Yeah, I think my eardrum just popped. All righty. Yeah, where were we? YouTube channel. Go there and type in the Chico Borman Show and hit subscribe if you are not doing so already. And then, of course, wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, we're there as well. And streaming live on iHeartRadio. Yes, we've got our own radio station as well. I mean, boom, it's just blowing up. My little pinhead is exploding with all that's going on here at Big Play.
Lots of excitement, Chico. Like my guy Worm and Rounders, a lot of action.
The only
worm
I know is Big Perm. I mean, Big Worm. I can't believe. I mean, Worm is always going to be affiliated with Friday over Rounders, and I like Rounders, Boom. But by the way, we'll get it. We've got a lot to get into. Obviously, the Browns Ravens coming up on Sunday. We got the Guardians and the Reds tonight. If you would have told me, by the way, if I would have said to you folks before the season started, the second to last series of the year between the Reds and the Guardians will have playoff implications, we would have all assumed, oh yeah, let's gear up again. It's the Reds that are hunting down, a game and a half, I think, out for the final wild card spot. Crazy how this season has gone. Tonight will most likely be Terry Francona's last game as manager, at least at home, for your Cleveland Guardians. What a great run he has had, despite what some people think. And we'll get into all of that and then some coming up with Bret Boone, because it's Wednesday and we're going around the diamond with the former All-Star second baseman coming your way in about an hour. I know what I was going to say, Boone. So I just finished as far as the television series, that Winning Time. Now, I made fun of it. This was in a previous lifetime when you and I worked together, but I made fun of it right out of the gate. I enjoyed it. I can't say I didn't enjoy it, but like the Jerry West character was just utterly ridiculous to me, how they made him into a raging lunatic. And I realized, like, it's dramatized, and that's the creativity directors get, and it doesn't have to be based on a true story or all of that. But, like, they made him out to be an absolute idiot.
Lunatic.
Yes, raging lunatic. And then, like, if you're Larry Bird sitting at home watching that, I don't know how much you watch. Like, I just finished the second and final season. It ended abruptly, and I don't know if that's because of the writer's strike or a Netflix. I don't know what happened. But, like, the Lakers beat the Celtics. It was in this season, it was, Kareem and Magic kind of at odds. Jerry, but I mean, it just ended very abruptly, and that's it. Season 2 over. But I can't figure out what's more unnerving. Seeing how they portrayed Jerry West, or seeing how they portrayed Larry Bird. Like, we all know that Larry Bird was a trash talker and the hick from French Lick and all of that, but, like, not good. And, I mean, nobody's going to confuse Larry Bird with Brad Pitt, but if I was Larry Bird, I'd be like, dude, I mean, you can't do a little bit better than that? It just, I don't know. I wasn't too pleased. Boom, what's going on? Well, I thought you were going to get into it with me with Winning Time.
Chico, I fell off on Winning Time after season 1. I still haven't seen the season 1 finale. I did hear season 2 was good.
Yeah, yeah.
I understand. I'm sure that because in just the natural progression of shows, you want to one up things a little bit from season 1 to season 2. So I can only imagine that Jerry got a little bit crazier in season 2.
Yeah, he did. It's all right. I thought maybe you had seen it, but it's all right.
I've kind of fallen off a cliff with TV nowadays.
You've kind of fallen off a cliff, metaphorically speaking.
Yes,
it's all right. I'm with you. I might take the jump with you. The way things have.
We're getting there. Take the plunge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Join me.
All right. 216-626-7901. You can tweet at the show at Chico Show CLE. Also, me personally at Big Play Chico. He is Mr. Bombastic. We'll have Fair or Foul coming up in a bit, and as I said, Brett Boone in the second hour of the show. Browns back on the practice field today. It is. Not that we didn't realize and not that we didn't talk about this before the season, but it has been an absolute roller coaster for this season through 3 games. About the only thing consistent, and good or bad, whatever, is just the defense. And the defense has been elite consistent, like best in the league through 3 games. We expected it to be better than it was a year ago, certainly, with the additions, not only player personnel, but also Jim Schwartz. I don't think anyone expected it to be this dominant this early. And again, we look at the schedule. Okay, Cincinnati's not the same Cincinnati team that they were a year ago. That's fine. Pittsburgh, wow, that preseason, that was a lot of fun, I'm sure, for Kenny Pickett. And while he's played a little bit better lately, that offense leaves a lot to be desired. And then, of course, the Tennessee Titans, who really have offensive line issues. But, I'm not going to sit here and say, like, oh, well, hey, last year's team and other teams in the past, since the Browns have come back in 1999, easily would have played down to those competitors, easily would have struggled, easily. And they have not only stomped on the throat, they're not letting these 3 teams at least, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, and Tennessee, up for air. Now these next 2, and we're going to have a bye week sandwiched in there, which I think is a little ridiculous, but it is what it is. But these next 2, you've got Baltimore and you've got San Francisco. And I think with the Ravens, and we're not looking past Baltimore at all, but I think with the Ravens and Lamar Jackson, we've seen him the last couple of games. I've seen him the last couple of games, starting with that Cincinnati game a couple of weeks ago, and he looked absolutely outstanding. The passing game is still a work in progress. He's a better passer than people give him credit for. But what I saw, and this scares the living hell out of me, but now this is why this is going to be such a great matchup. Because you have the Houdini of all the Houdinis out there in Lamar Jackson. This is a guy that Nick Shook and I talked about on yesterday's show on the Bold Ball Breakdown, that he can demoralize a defense, has demoralized defenses throughout his career, including the Browns. And by that, okay, hey, we're sending this at him. We had perfect coverage. Our secondary did everything they were supposed to do. Our guys up front, but unfortunately, he was able to slip out of a tackle, and then next thing you know, 12 yards or moving the chains, and it's demoralizing. And there are certain things that you can't control during a game, and that at times can be one of them. But it feels like now, and I like the term that Nick Shook used yesterday, and this was used by former players when dealing with Lamar Jackson, cage him. Like you're not going to simulate. Nobody can simulate in the week leading up to it, or during the game itself. He is an all-pro, and he is one of the best in the game for a reason. And the reason is, like, he's going to make those plays. But you want to keep him to a minimum, and you want to try to contain him. I mean, can we expect, like, we went into the Tennessee game, and I'm not going to say I expected Derrick Henry to just romp, but I expected Derrick Henry to have a better game than he did, and the Browns they weren't having it. Can we expect, should we expect this Browns defense to just completely corral Lamar Jackson? Because if they do that, I mean, there isn't much of a running game. Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, as we know, is out for the season. Gus Edwards, I think Justice Hill is okay. A little bit of explosion there, but largely, last week you saw them in a loss, Baltimore I'm talking about, in a loss to Indianapolis. Lamar Jackson was their leading rusher by a mile, 14 carries, over 100 yards. This Browns defense is so athletic, so fast, so aggressive. Can you be over at times? Yeah, I think you can be. And that's where you can kind of get in trouble with Lamar Jackson. But at the same time, this is what I'm fighting. I don't want to tell, and I don't want Jim Schwartz to tell those guys dial it back, because I don't want to see them dial it back. I want to see the aggressiveness. I want to see the hair on fire, which we've seen through 3 games. With Lamar Jackson, there's a difference between hair on fire playing recklessly and undisciplined. I don't get the sense we're going to see that on Sunday. I think we need to prepare ourselves for Lamar Jackson to make some plays, and he will. But I think in the end, I just, and maybe you can say I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, and yeah, 2 weeks ago we were bumming, and I don't know. I have no idea really what to expect from the offense. I mean, I'd love to say, like everybody else, that Deshaun Watson's totally back. The offense they're still a work in progress. He's still a work in progress. And while Baltimore is not the same defensive team they've been over the years, it's still Baltimore. Do they lack a bit of a pass rush? Yes, they do. Secondary, Marlon Humphrey, it appears, is going to be out again. Huge loss in that secondary. So they are not the same Baltimore defense, but again, this Browns offense is still a work in progress. So we start looking at now, okay, what can we count on? What can we go to the game with? If you're going to the game, sitting down to watch it, whatever, what can we expect from this team on Sunday? And I think it's what we've seen through 3 games. It's a defense that is going to be aggressive. It's a defense that's going to make plays, and they're going to make their presence felt. I think with Lamar Jackson, though, like I want to see them frustrate him, because he doesn't get frustrated. That's the thing. Like Lamar Jackson and all the great ones, when you talk about great quarterbacks, all the great ones tend to, have that quality, right? The ice water in the veins. Lamar Jackson has that. I'm not saying that he always makes the best decisions, and of course health is a concern and all that, but as far as I'm looking at him right now through 3 weeks, and I'm looking at the Ravens offense through 3 weeks, he's not going to lose his cool. Can the Browns frustrate him, though? And I think this team with this scheme can absolutely do that. Their number 1 receiver is Zay Flowers, the rookie out of Boston College. I don't care, about Rashad Bateman, who has not really materialized for him. Kind of a long list of those guys. Now, again, Mark Andrews is a great tight end. OBJ is banged up. Go figure. But Zay Flowers, I think, is their number one guy. But you're talking about a secondary that was lights out last week without Greg Newsome. And, I would expect that to continue on that back end. But can you frustrate Lamar Jackson? Can you kind of get in his head a little bit? Myles Garrett does that better than anybody, I think sometimes without even trying. But now he's got some partners in crime. Now he's got Zadarius Smith. Now he's got Obo. Now he's got, up the middle, Dalvin Tomlinson. It's just Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is back to playing with that hair on fire, if ever a guy has that label. I want to see him frustrated, and I think they're going to frustrate him on Sunday.
Yeah, and don't forget Shelby Harris, who was on the Reflog show. He's great. He's a lot of fun,
and Mo
Chico.
Hurst.
Yeah, Mo Hurst. He's been on a tear this year.
Yeah, Mo Hurst. As Nick Shook said yesterday, Mo Hurst has been absolutely killing it as well.
With all that said, I think this is undoubtedly the Browns' toughest test of the year. Because to your point, Cincinnati isn't what they were. I think Andre Dillard was easy pickings for Myles Garrett.
Yeah, that wasn't even fair. Not that there is a fair fight, but there are fairer fights, and that one.
Now, if Myles Garrett does continue his trend of what we heard Nick Shook talk about,
how we doing, fellas?
And,
it's all right, no problem.
Someone
all good.
Someone very aggressively yanked that door open.
Yeah, they were very intrigued, and then they opened the door, and then they looked like they saw a ghost. Me. I don't know. I guess I have.
Oh, don't mind us. We're only on the air.
That glare off the forehead.
Yeah.
We only have security for other shows, not this one.
But no, so one would hope that Myles can continue that trend that Nick Shook alluded to during the Numbers That Matter of having the fastest average get-off time of any pass rusher in football right now. And look, this is going to be, I think, a step up on the offensive line for Baltimore, but having that sort of get-off is still going to be a handful for any offensive line in the NFL.
Yeah. And I think, and maybe I was going to say, are we expecting too much from the defense? But I don't think so. I mean, you've got a lot of high-priced talent on that side of the ball. If anything, last year we expected too much, and I don't want to say too much. We expected a lot more than we got, and that was on them. I mean, now, of course, you didn't have the reinforcements in the middle of that line, and they would give up 5 yards a carry, it seemed, and they had no. If you can't stop the run, you're not going to win games in the NFL. Period. I don't care what else you do. If you consistently do not stop the running game, you're in trouble. So couple that or factor that into the equation with Myles not having the help he has now, Joe Woods, who great guy, but he was lost. And because he was lost, his players were lost, and then they're bickering, and it's completely the opposite now. So I don't feel like we're putting too much on this defense. I feel like this is a defense that, look, you've got the big names. You added more big names that are getting a lot of money. Myles Garrett is earning every penny. Denzel Ward, knock on wood, staying healthy. But they invested a lot, whether it be draft capital, whether it be free agency, whatever it's been. This is, I think, what we wanted to see, hope to see at some point during the season. I don't know if we expected it to be this elite, this early in the season, 3 games in. But this will be a good test.
And I guess to distinguish the difference for me, this has been, like, objectively a historic start for this Browns defense. That being said, I don't think that it makes this Browns defense just yet historic because they need to prove it in those big games, right? And I think that they still have some tough challenges, like obviously 2 weeks or 3 weeks from now, is it when you got the 49ers?
Yeah, following the bye week, yep.
Yeah, so, Brock Purdy, I guess the jury's still out on him on whether he's elite, but that is a very top-tier offense.
See, you know what's funny about I was thinking about this the other day. Remember what they always said about Jimmy Garoppolo? Like the Jimmy Garoppolo supporters were like, "Oh, all he does is win games." Yeah, but he didn't pass the eye. Brock Purdy's
I'm
passing
taking Purdy
the eye
over
test.
Garoppolo all day.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. There's just some guys just have that quality, and I'm not saying he's elite by any stretch or top 5, but he doesn't have to be. he's just got to be a threat in the passing game, along with a guy in Christian McCaffrey. Again, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but these next 2 games, we all want to see these litmus tests, but I don't think any of us are. Remember, as Browns fans, we're used to this. We're used to like a fake bravado, if you will, of oh man, absolutely, they're gonna kick some ass this week, and then. But there was always that deep down inside you, that voice going, I don't know, I don't get that. I don't feel like this, because when you have an elite defense, it changes everything. It really does. And again, I am somebody that usually will say, all right, pump the brakes. We're all getting a little, and okay, yeah, they haven't played great offenses through 3 games, and yeah, I know Cincinnati, but it's not the same. But I'm not even worried about that. And I think when you have an elite defense, and you have an offense that, let's not act like this is the 2000 Ravens. There's talent. There's a ton of talent. Now, you lost the heart and soul, and that's
a lot of injuries.
Yeah, you're not well, and it's just that one in particular, because you're not going to replace him, but you're still trying to figure things out. And Deshaun Watson, speaking of consistency, he's got to do it now. It's okay. You've got to do it next week, and then you got to do it after the bye week. Like, that's just how it is. If you're a great team, this is why when we talk about culture, when we talk about, are the Browns in that level or at that level with other teams? No, not even close, because they haven't proven it year after year. And like anybody else, I was kind of bamboozled myself after 2020. I'm like, man, if you can do it in a pandemic year, if you can do it virtually, for God's sake, and you're not even on the practice field, imagine. And then it was pump the brakes. So trust me, I am as I would say skeptical. I'm as hesitant as anyone out there, but my eyeballs are not deceiving me. I'm getting up there. I need help with the eyeballs, but my eyeballs are not deceiving me. This defense is like nothing we've seen before since they've come back in the league. And like I said, I compare it to myself growing up as a kid, which it's sad that it's been this long. Think about how long we're going back here. But it's the mid-'80s for me. You had a great, pass rush. You had a great front line. Linebackers played more of a role back then. Guys like Clay Matthews and company, Mike Johnson, Eddie Johnson. All those guys. Linebackers played a much bigger role. And then the secondary, you obviously had our own top dog, Hanford Dixon, Frank Minifield, Felix Wright. This is what it feels like. I know we still got to go out and prove it. And now you start to Baltimore and San Francisco. Okay, how are you going to come out against these teams? But I feel like with the defense, you know how they say like certain things travel in sports? An elite defense travels. An elite defense, it doesn't matter if it's 20 below, if it's 85, if the wind is blowing, if there's snow, if there's sleet, if there's hail, it really doesn't matter. If you have an elite defense, it'll cover up a lot of warts. And I'm not saying the offense has warts, but the offense is a work in progress. This is a good problem to have, I guess is the best. But I don't feel like I'm going down a rabbit hole or I'm going for the bait when it comes to this defense. And I don't think anyone else out there is doing that either. I think this is legit. What we're seeing is real. It's real. They're elite.
And you raise an interesting point about the conditions, because we know that in the past, Deshaun has struggled in the conditions. So you are going to need that elite defense, because you don't have Nick Chubb anymore to carry you through those tough weather games. So I agree with you, Chico. If they truly do prove and walk the walk throughout the course of this season, and that elite defense travels, as you so eloquently said, then I think that's going to be huge for Deshaun's success.
Yeah, it's it's fun. It's fun. It's been a roller coaster. It's always a roller coaster as a sports fan, and certainly as a sports fan here in Cleveland, and certainly as a sports fan here in Cleveland with the Browns. But this is what we sign up for. This is what we love, and I think as far as the start to the season, we were on cloud nine, beyond cloud nine after week one. And then week two happened, and I think as we've all said, it was much more than just a loss to Pittsburgh. Much more than that. It was the loss of Nick Chubb and the loss of your heart and soul and the way you lost him and that, the cart having to, no, that's our Superman on and off the field. He doesn't go off the field like he did. Well, he just did. And he doesn't go off the field for the entire year. Well, he did. So, we were, the process, when we talk about a roller coaster of emotions, we were processing things, even as Browns fans, as much as we've had to deal with and we would seemingly be immune to, even Browns fans weren't ready for what happened on that Monday night in Pittsburgh. And again, I'm not talking about the loss. I'm talking about Chubb. So it was like, man, our emotions are all over the place.
That was traumatizing, Chico.
And then all of a sudden you've got, 1 week, less than a week, you got to get ready for the Tennessee Titans. And, there's Mike Vrabel, and they're going to be physical, and they've got Derrick Henry, and they've got a good defensive line. And, you know what? This one's going to be over before it even starts because our defense is just going to say as such and act the part. And, it's, yeah. So I, as far as the roller coaster and as far as being a little cautious, I get that. But if I'm giving the green light to people to be very excited, then I think and from a defensive standpoint, I guess that's where and if I had to pick one, even though I think in today's NFL, and certainly with, the Deshaun Watson story, the backstory, and the other backstory, and the other backstory, the money, hey, we want to see that offense take off and do their thing. And, I think they will get better. How great they'll be, I don't know. But I'll tell you, there's just something different when it's on the defensive side of the ball and when it's not just, oh, hey, yeah, our defense isn't going to let us down. No, our defense is going to win games by themselves, are going to set a tempo, are going to exert their. We've been the team that has had others will exert it on us year after year after year. And what makes it even more difficult is it's come from who? Largely the teams in our division, Baltimore and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh and Baltimore and Pittsburgh. And now it's like, okay, Pittsburgh's still a great defense, and TJ Watt is, Myles Garrett, 1 and 1A, and they're incredible. But now it's like, yeah, you guys have been the big badass bullies for a while, but guess what? This defense, led by a badass bully in Jim Schwartz, there's a new kid on the block. Now I can finally say that confidently and not with any kind of false bravado.
You remember the old Ray Horton days of bend but don't break? Gosh, that was like our defensive slogan for years, but it always seemed to break in the end.
Yeah. I like that. That's mark that quote from you. We always had a bend don't break, but it always seemed to break in the end. Yes. Sometimes we wouldn't even have to wait until the end. Sometimes it would break early. Sometimes the dam down goes that dam in the first quarter, second quarter. But yes, Boom, you're right. And now here's the other thing too. When you are as aggressive as they are, you're going to get burned. Be prepared for that a few times. If I'm saying a couple times all season, we're in good shape. But even on Sunday, oh man, they got really aggressive there and they brought the house and Zay Flowers. Okay, they're not gonna just hold teams to 94 yards of total offense every single week. high school. That's a stat and a good one. And you're getting, as Kenny Mayne would say, your name in the paper if you hold a team to 94 yards of total offense. The National Football League, Derrick Henry. Yeah, I know the offensive line and Dillard, but 94 yards of total offense, and it's what they've done over 3 games. Like this is a combination of 3 games where we can talk about the quarterbacks or injuries or the offenses or an offensive line. I don't care. Like our eyeballs, my eyeballs are not deceiving me.
Chico, this Browns defense so far this year is making their opponents' offenses look like the 0-16 Browns. Like they're just inoperable, stagnant, can't get a single inch of momentum. And it's been great. It's been incredible to witness. Like this, if they are to keep this sort of caliber performance up throughout the course of the season, we're talking about them up there with the 85 Bears. Like that sort of caliber of defense. Now the Browns will obviously, that is, if the Browns don't do anything in the postseason, then that's always going to be the knock on it. But I think this has to go down in contention as one of the greatest defenses. And I am getting ahead of myself.
Yes, but you know what?
They have that potential.
That's me. That's my fault.
It is. You're right.
I think right now
I'm getting sucked into the Browns propaganda.
I'm kind of contagious, but I can't help it.
You and Jarvis Landry.
I can't. Contagious, man. Unless you got it falling off a bone, get out there. Guys don't practice. That's contagious.
Contagious.
And he's so right. He was so right, by the way. That's why Jarvis is always going to be beloved here. But it's just, and the reason this is different for me is, like I said, I'm not used to having a dominant defense. I'm not used to having you got a good pass rush, but maybe the back end's a little shaky. Or, you've got some talent, but you got nobody complimenting your top pass rusher. And by the way, your defensive coordinator he's kind of lost, and he doesn't what he's trying to do isn't working. On top of that, it's complex. Nobody knows their roles. Whereas with Jim Schwartz, everything, all the ingredients are here. You've got to go out and do it. That's never going to change. But I just feel with a defense, it's just different. And I don't feel like, I'll say it. It's kind of, okay, it's the elephant in the room that's not the elephant in the room. I don't have any qualms that Jim Schwartz is going to outthink himself like I do with Kevin Stefanski at times. I love Kevin Stefanski. I do. We've spent, Nick and I talked about it again yesterday on the bald breakdown. Kevin Stefanski is one of the best offensive minds in the game. But it's kind of like, having that Ferrari, and you're the only time. Well, I shouldn't say the only time, but you're trying to show off in the 35 mile an hour zone. Get it on the highway and freaking let it go there. Don't try to outclass everybody, outthink everybody in the 35 mile an hour zone. It's a terrible analogy, but it's all I could come up with right in the moment. I don't get that feeling with Jim Schwartz. I don't have that, like Kevin Stefanski, Deshaun Watson, Kevin Stefanski, and I'm not trying to just crap on these guys, but I'm being real. Like I don't know what to expect from the offense on Sunday. I'm hoping Deshaun builds on that. I'm hoping that Amari Cooper continues to be Amari Cooper. I'm hoping that Jerome Ford and Kareem Hunt, I don't need to see Harrison Bryant carry the ball at all, but, hopefully that gets better. But I still have that, even if things are going well, is Kevin going to get too cute? I don't feel that way with this on that side of the ball. And if there's one way, if there's one side of the ball I want to be able to feel that way about, it's that side of the ball. Because, again, that travels. That covers up a lot of warts. That wins you not just regular season games, playoff games. We're a long way from that. I want to be clear because somebody's like, Chico, calm down. You're right. Calm down.
And to your point, Chico, I saw so Micah Parsons is doing a podcast now.
Of course.
And he gave his top 4 AFC teams. He had the Browns at number 3. And the very first thing he said right off the rip as his explanation for it, defense wins championships. And obviously, you know, the defensive bias from a guy like Micah Parsons, but like that's exactly what you're contesting right now.
Yeah.
And I think like people around the league are taking notice, Chico.
Yeah, they absolutely are. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to get to the Guardians, and I know we haven't talked much. We haven't really had much reason to talk Guardians, but I will when we come back, and I will certainly when Bret Boone joins us coming up top of the hour. Guardians play their last home game tonight. They are off tomorrow, and then they go to Comerica Park for a 3-game set in Detroit, and the season's over. And like I said, if I would have told you, or you would have told me, that on September the 27th, final week of the season, Reds are in town and there's playoff implications, we're like, yeah, all right. I mean, go Guards, let's go. There's playoff implications, but it's the Cincinnati Reds that are in the hunt, a game and a half out of the final wild card spot in the NL. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Tito's legacy here, and there is a good legacy, believe it or not, even though some of you on social media don't agree. We'll talk about that, and yes, also get your thoughts on what I just had to say about the Browns. Am I going over? Am I too over the top? Is this? Are you not ready for me, who's usually telling people to just shut up with all your Is it too much hearing me this excited about the defense 3 games into the season?
Are you not entertained?
I mean, he asked the question. I'm just the host.
He's just going with the flow.
I don't do it. Yeah, that's all I do here. Honestly, that's all I do is I just go.
Riding the tidal wave over here behind the soundboard.
That's exactly what I'm doing.
We're going to need a bigger boat.
Like riding the tide, Lake Erie. I can see it from our windows out here. That's just me here, literally and figuratively at Big Play, just riding the wave. We're doing where? We're going already. We're going here. We're going there. And we're going to go to break, and we'll be back with more of the Chico Borman Show right after this. All righty, welcome back. Chico Borman Show on this Wednesday afternoon. Good to have you aboard. And the Guardians playing their final home game of the regular season. There will be no postseason this year. Final home game of the regular season tonight. It's a 6:10 first pitch. Shane Bieber, Shane Bieber's back. He's going to be pitching tonight. He's a starting pitcher for the Guardians. Guardians come in 74 and 84, 10 games out of first, or 10 games, below 500. It is there's no I'm not sugarcoating anything here, okay? As much as, like I said, this is going to be very shocking on so many different levels. I'm extremely optimistic about the Browns, and I'm pretty much, I am objective, very objective about the Guardians. It's just a lot of people hate on them too much, so I've got to be the, in some eyes, bad cop, right?
The guardian of the Guardians.
Yes. Now, that's a good line, Boone. Yes, sometimes I have to be the guardian of the Guardians. But in the last, this season and the last year, in terms of some decisions made, they've dropped the ball. I mean, they have, the front office has made some mistakes. And in some cases, it's looking like bigger and bigger mistakes. So this is not about, all you do is care about, carrying the water for the Dolans. No, I don't. They don't even. Paul Dolan, I'm going to be at the stadium tonight. If I walked by Paul Dolan on the concourse, he wouldn't know me from, actually, he would know the usher better than he would know me, because he doesn't know me. And that's okay. I'm a grown man. My entire life, I've been a Guardians fan, an Indians fan, whatever you want, however you want to say it, phrase it. I have said many, many times, and I will continue to say, because I think it's true, at least as I believe it, the Cleveland Browns and the leash that they are given in this town is about at least 25 times larger than given to other teams, but especially the Guardians. Now, I'm not going to tell you that I didn't, that, as much as I'm from Cleveland, and I was away for a little bit, college, Columbus, and worked in Pennsylvania for a little bit. I've always been tuned in here, but I did not realize it until I moved back here, just how bad that is, or how much of an issue it is, until I, got on the air here, and I'm like, man, why is it that people just, even when things are going well, people just want to hate on the Indians/Guardians? And I don't know the answer to that. I think some of it is you have a younger generation that they grew up in the 90s. So, they expect every year to be the 90s. They expect every year to trot out Manny Ramirez and Albert Bell and Jim Thome. Now, make no mistake, that doesn't excuse Miles Straw and friends that they've had the last year. And I mean, it's frustrating. No, make no mistake. But what has irked me more than anything is, like I said, they had a nice run there. 2016, they made it to Game 7 of the World Series. And don't give me the, oh, yeah, but they didn't win it. You had no clue that they were even going to make the postseason, get to the World Series, but they did. They did it on heart. They did it on guts. They were on empty in terms of bodies. Carlos Carrasco, Trevor Bauer, cleaning his drone. Oops. I mean, they had nobody left, and they take the Cubs to 7 games. I know, it sucks. You wish
extras.
You wish extras in 7. You're right, and a rain delay. You wish you had. You wish that Terry Francona and company, they were able to end that draft, especially that guy. And that's kind of what I'm getting to here with Francona. But what really gets me is that people, even then, because I'm okay with people saying, well, Chico, you got to understand they're frustrated this season. Yeah, I'm frustrated this season. Like I said, they have made, and they have made some big mistakes over the last year or so. And they've never been perfect. But I think for the front office, and that I include Tito in that, this stretch over the last 11 years, they have been pulling rabbits out of hats. And that's not to say they've had no talent, but It is not a level playing field. Another thing that fans don't want to listen to. Let me go back to Dick Jacobs for a second, okay? Because Jacobs Field, when it was Jacobs Field, Dick Jacobs is revered in this town, and he should be. He always will be. I hear people say, and I think they think it's like a shot at the current. I'll never call it Progressive Field. It'll always be the Jake to me. Well, I mean, yeah, me too. The 90s were incredible, but why do you think Dick Jacobs sold when he did? Just ask yourself that question. Why do you think he sold when he did? All right, give up. I'm going to give you the answer. And first, I'm going to tell you, Terry Pluto, who I love having on the show and is one of the best in the business, wrote a book about this. And in the book, he talks about how Dick Jacobs, when he realized, wow, now it's all about cable money. And wow, okay, we're selling out, and that sellout streak has, kind of propelled us and suites but all that revenue is used up, and we can't compete because, the Yes Network, and it hasn't changed. It's gotten worse. Dick Jacobs was a businessman. Tom Hamilton said this to Terry Pluto for the book. And I'm paraphrasing, but he basically said, you don't get to be a multi-millionaire like Dick Jacobs was and as savvy a businessman as Dick Jacobs was by not making smart decisions and not thinking like business first. People just assume that Dick Jacobs, he came out there and he's like, money be damned, business be damned, I just want a winner. No, he wanted to make money. Make no mistake, he wanted to. That was there was a certain threshold that they had to meet every year. Now, what happened was you realized, okay, hey, we got to get some better people in here. John Hart and, all of these, the talent evaluators, they were able to get it, and it changed everything. The Manny Ramirez's, the Albert Bells, the Jim Thome's, yes. And then it coincided, and this is where I say the perfect storm. It coincided with a brand new ballpark that was the place to be. I don't care if you were a baseball fan or not, it was the place to be. If you wanted to be seen in Cleveland, Ohio, if you wanted to impress the girl on the first date, you got Indians tickets? How the hell did you do? Well,
If you were Travis Kelce dating Taylor Swift in that time.
Yeah, she's basically saying to Trav, Tay-Tay is, better put a ring on it.
Tay-Tay and Trav.
Yeah. By the way, have you just real quick an aside? Have you seen where sports fans are upset that Travis Kelce and I'm as diehard a sports fan and as inept in pop culture as anybody. You can attest to it. Anybody here can attest to it. Anybody who knows me can attest to it. But sports fans are so, she didn't put him on the map. Now, in sports, no. Travis Kelce's a stud, right? I mean, he's a star. He's one of the best, maybe the best to play that tight end position. He plays on a great team. But think about it. Hang on a second, Bohm. I know you're chomping at the bit. This is right up your alley. But he gained how many Instagram followers? And for me, I know, I don't know how to work Instagram and Reflog and Padone and those guys, they've got 8 million or what. I don't know how it works. They do it well, and that's great. Travis Kelce gained 500,000 since Sunday. What, do you think that was just a coincidence? Do you think that they really enjoyed his latest Chunky Soup commercial? It was Tay-Tay. And sports fans are she didn't put him on the map. He was outside of sports, she has. That's a whole nother world that he's in right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's not an international superstar. And Taylor Swift is literally the biggest, most household name in the world.
Yes.
And so I don't know why sports fans are so offended by this. Honestly, I love the fact that it's introducing more people to the sport.
Right. I saw a clip, and it was, they were talking about it on one of the talk shows early this morning, and I was watching it, and they were playing a clip from like I don't know if it was just a podcast. I don't know. There's not just a podcast. This is just a podcast. But it was three guys, and like they were literally, boom. When I say they were mad, it was, the camera's on them. It wasn't just audio I'm hearing. They're like, this is really getting on my nerves. Like, why does everybody think that Taylor Swift? Because it's true. Like, and here, especially here, we love Travis Kelce. He walks on water here. He walks on water in the NFL. But if you think that outside of football, like, yeah, I mean, a girl might find him attractive or that, but this level, no, it's totally different. Okay, but anyway, so back to Jacobs Field. Yes, if Trav really wanted to impress Tay-Tay, if you wanted to impress your date, if you wanted to impress a client, you were seen at Jacobs Field. And guess what? It didn't matter if it was a Saturday night. It didn't matter if it was a Friday night. If you were able to get the just getting a ticket, because again, how many consecutive sellouts? 5. What's that number? 4, 5. I forgot.
455.
455. Good job, Boone. Yeah, I'm gonna double check that when I go today. I should know that by heart. But so you had consecutive sell. I mean, it was impossible. That was the only Christmas present that I wanted one year, and I got them. And it was, you would have thought I was Ralphie getting the Red Rifle BB gun, the Red Ryder BB gun. Like, that's how excited I was. And it came as a surprise. Like, man, we tried to get tickets and we just couldn't. And then it was 2 for the Baltimore Orioles. I've told this story before. It was actually a Friday night game. We went to on Friday night, my buddy and I. We were at Ohio State. We drove to Columbus. Or drove to Cleveland, and then we decided, well, that wasn't, we were also a little inebriated. We're going to stay over, we're going to sleep in the parking lot of the Thirsty Parrot, and then when we get up, we're going to scalp tickets for the next day. These tickets, I mean, you just didn't get tickets back then easily. It didn't happen. So we get tickets for the next game. That happens to be the one where Kenny Lofton, it's now the bobblehead, it's now the pose, it's now the highlight that when you see Kenny Lofton making a defensive, that's the one you see. It was that Saturday game, whereas basically his entire arm goes over the wall. And Jose Mesa, Joe Table, basically said after the game, like, I don't know what the hell that was. Nobody knew what the hell that was. He caught that? Yeah, he caught that. But my point is, like, it was a different time, and I don't know if some fans expect, like, the 90s to happen now. It's not. It was the perfect storm, and I'm not saying the 90s shouldn't be celebrated. I still celebrate it. I just told you, one of the fondest memories I have as a Cleveland fan, as an Indians fan, is that, and plenty more where that came from. But it's just not the same. And as much as Dick Jacobs is revered, he was a businessman. Wow, 98, 99. Ooh, I'm not going to be able to compete as far as these television, because now TV money is a big deal. It's a huge deal. It's the only deal. So if I can't compete with these bigger markets, I'm going to be eating it. Now, I get it that you're frustrated with, man, we can't seem to sign the guys that end up walking away, a Manny Ramirez, an Albert Bell, a Jim Toby, on and on. I get it, and still going on. But you have to know, you have to understand that was lightning in a bottle. And, oh, by the way, I don't have to tell you this, but I will. Boom, there was something significant that happened in the mid-90s.
The Browns ceased to exist.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Yeah, so when I say the perfect storm and that's it, okay? That's it. So all I'm saying is celebrate the hell out of the 90s, but don't – and I don't know. There's a variety of reasons. Some people just love football more than baseball, and that's fine. I love football too. But don't let it cloud – like, oh, well, the Guardians suck. Tito sucks. Like, I mean, come on, man. You're making yourself look bad. You're making the other other fan bases. You're making us look bad. Don't do that. Don't do that. All right. I worked up a lather there. Granted, it's a little warm in here, but I'd appreciate it. You know what I like about Boone, when I have Eric Casillas on? Like, he comes in a little bit early, and he's engaged and in the show. Like, he's, and I can see, when he's plugged in and he's into the podcast and click the link, and he's like laughing and joking. So I'm like, yeah, all right, EK. But Boone, for the last, like, I don't know, 5, 7, 8 minutes, he's been basically taking a nap. Like, he has no interest in what I've been saying. None. He was taking a nap. Let's wake him up here if we can. And he's the host of the Bret Boone podcast. Now, he may have a very good excuse, because the Mariners, like, when you have those days, those years where, like, the playoffs, before the playoffs, which essentially the Mariners are in, they had a big win last night with George Kirby on the mound. Like, you're not getting much sleep. So maybe Boone has a good excuse. But Boone, I'm sorry to wake you up. I thought I was engaging. I thought I was really telling great stories, but you weren't that impressed. How you doing, Boone?
I'm doing good. How you doing? What's going on, Chico?
Well, Boone, first of all, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Hey, Boom.
Oh, sure. Yeah, there we go.
Hey, Boone. Good to see you again.
What's going on?
Actually, I wanted to ask you a question.
Go ahead. He's not interested in what I have to say.
I'll be here all week, Boom. Go ahead.
I got a baseball question and a life question for you. Which one do you want first?
God.
I'm an expert in both.
Okay, I'll start with baseball, because I thought it was interesting that Gabriel Arias with the Guardians. So he's a righty, but he's hitting. The last I checked, he was hitting like 80 against left-handed pitchers, and he had a way better average against right-handed pitchers. Is that just like an enigma? Is that, or how would you explain that?
I wasn't prepped for that. Anomaly.
It would be an anomaly. Yes. For the most part, right-handers, because nothing's breaking away from you when you face a left-handed pitcher. For the most part, if you're struggling with your swing, and you see a lefty on the calendar coming up, it's a welcome thing for a right-hander. For the most part, statistically speaking, yes. If when I'm feeling great, I don't care if it's a righty or lefty. If I'm off, if I'm not feeling that good, if my swing's a little off, much easier to hang in there against a left-handed pitcher, because nothing's breaking away from you. That's the rule. Now, I've had years where I absolutely did great off left-handed pitcher, way better, and I would say consistently over my career, yes, my average probably, if you look, is higher against left-handers, because it's an easier thing to do. It's easier to hit lefties on average. But there were years, for whatever reason, there's no rhyme or reason, I hit better off right-handers. I don't think over a big body of work, you're going to see that for the most part. I looked at Rizzo this year. He was hitting much higher against left-handed pitchers than right-handed pitchers. Rizzo, I'm talking, with the Yankees. Makes no sense logically, but sometimes it's just, for whatever reason, it just works out that way. So, yes, I think it's an anomaly. I don't think it's something over a large years and years you'll see will be a consistent stat. But year to year, yeah, anything could happen.
Not to interrupt, fellas, I just want to let everybody know this is welcome to the Chico Borman Show here on the Big Play Sports Network. Now, Boom, obviously you got an answer there. I'm sure that suffices. You also had a life question, so I don't want to get in the way here. I don't want to be a third wheel. You go ahead and get all your questions answered with Ask Boone here on the Chico Borman Show.
This was a quick one.
Yeah, it's turning into the Chico Boom.
Yeah, it's always been the Bombastic Show with Chico Borman. It's just,
there you go. All right,
we're just fooling ourselves.
Now, life question.
Yeah, so I noticed a couple of your teammates are out there being professional photographers at NFL games. Ken Griffey Jr. and Randy Johnson. Is that something you've ever considered?
No. But I see that. Randy was kind of the first one. He's been doing it for a long time. He actually started at the end of his career with the camera thing. But at the All-Star game this year, I saw Junior with his big cameras hanging off his back, and I'm like, oh, you're a cameraman now. And he goes, yeah, I kind of getting into it. I like it. I don't know. It's something you got to find something when you're done, a passion, something to take the place of something you've done your whole life. So yeah, I see Junior now. He's on the sidelines at the NFL games, and I don't know. Good for him. You find something you love, dive into it, and it seems like he is. Randy, is kind of ahead of Junior. He's been doing it for years and years. But yeah, whatever floats your boat. Not for me. I'm not a cameraman. I have enough problem with my iPhone. So
Boom, you good?
But yes, I have noticed that.
Thumbs up, you're good? All right. Well, actually, that was a good transition for a question that I had on Ask Boone with the on the Michael Bohm show. Bret, I was wondering, Mike in Cleveland, by the way.
Bret,
I was wondering, so like you're familiar with Terry Francona, his last home game. I'm being serious now. Terry Francona's last home game, managing the Guardians. Yes. This will be it, yes. We think, after this season. One of the things that, and I was thinking about this the other day, and of course I'm probably into the weeds on it a little bit, but Terry, you mentioned a lifer, right? You mentioned you got to have something. And that is exactly, in my mind, and everything you hear and read, what Terry Francona is. He's a baseball lifer. I mean, he's got a picture in his office of him as a 4 or 5 year old standing in front of his dad, Terry Tito, and I mean, he's just always been at the ballpark. And so I think about it, and you've kind of had the similar experience. I mean, there aren't many baseball lifers, and I mean, hell, third generation. How tough is it? Maybe not for you, like your father, Bob, because obviously it was before Bob, it was Ray who played here in Cleveland. How hard is it if you are a true lifer, not a baseball, I'm true lifer, to step away and say, okay, what's next?
I think it's really tough. Now, I wouldn't consider myself a lifer because I stepped away for a lot of years,
right.
Just until recently, getting back on the media side of it. But
you had to prep for Bohm's questions. Yeah, that took a lot. Of.
No, yeah, I was. I can just tell my experience. I grew up in big league clubhouses. It was my life. I knew nothing else. I was very naive of what a cool childhood I got to live. Fast forward, I go into professional baseball. I ended up making a career out of playing the big leagues for a long time. And then when it came time for me to walk away, I remember at the end and reporters asking me, what are you going to do? I said, when I can't play second base anymore, I'm going to move on and I'm going to go to a different section of my life, and baseball's over. And that was my plan. And I walked away. And then all of a sudden I woke up one day and thought, well, I didn't plan very well, because there's a reason that the majority of society is not walking around at 37 retired and moving on into the latter years of their life. You need to do something. If I could give myself advice 17 years ago, I would have gone a different route. I would have gotten into something right away instead of just going off and thinking that I'm going to play golf for the rest of my life. Other people in my family, my father, Aaron, I would consider them kind of more in the lifer category.
Agreed.
Dad went
yep.
straight. Dad went from living the same childhood as I did, growing up under Grandpa and going to the ballpark, and then playing in the big leagues for 19 years. A year later, he was managing in Tacoma, Washington, AAA for the A's. And then from there went on to manage the Reds, the Kansas City Royals, and then into the front office for a long tenure until 2 years ago, is the first time in my dad's life he hasn't been employed by a Major League Baseball team since 1969. Aaron Boone, similar, same childhood as me, grew up right when he was done playing, transitioned into the media and went to ESPN, was on Sunday Night Baseball, and then transferred into managing. So Aaron really, since his childhood, hasn't been away from a major league organization or the game of baseball in a working capacity since he was a little kid.
So you're
when you're a little kid, obviously you're not working, but
right.
these are true lifers. Aaron Boone, Bob Boone, those are true. Probably with my dad being the exception, there's probably nobody that's been around the game than my dad.
And that's
starting at 5 years old, tagging along with Grandpa.
This is great, and the only reason I'm interrupting you is because that was what I was getting to. It's almost like your dad, Bob, is exactly like Terry. Like, I mean, that's like Bob, and I'm not just saying this because, I mean, you've told stories about it, like umpires asking about your dad. They all loved your dad. Your dad is very well liked and very well received to this day. And I think, maybe I'm, searching here, but like Terry Francona, for the most part, also, like every city they go to, and I'm not saying, standing ovations, but like the clubhouse attendants, the umpires, Tito, hey, Tito, how's it going? And I feel like growing up, if Ray took Bob to the ballpark, like Tito took Terry to the ballpark, hey, they can't be around him 24/7, and you even know this. Like, here's a few bucks. You go do what you do. Don't get in trouble. I mean, you talked about it, like the mascots or the, clubhouse attendants, the guy in the concession stand. All those guys probably to this day still love your dad, know your dad, and it's the same with Terry Francona. And I think that's part of the, he always treated those guys well. He always associated around those guys because growing up, you couldn't just be around dad all the time because he had a job to do.
Yeah, I mean, I still go back to clubhouses today, and there's a lot of the personnel that I left is still there. So I understand what you're talking about. Yes, Terry is definitely a guy that's grown up in a similar way as I did, as my dad did, and a similar reputation to my father. Well-respected, high-integrity men. The difference probably between Bob Boone and Terry Francona is Terry's kind of lived it. When you're the manager of a big league team, you're more in the limelight. You're more of a topic. You're on TV every night. You're in the dugout with your players. Whereas my dad, he managed, but for the last couple decades, Dad's been in front office. So he's been kind of out of sight, out of mind. There's the differences. But as far as in the game, baseball people, baseball lifers, Dad and Terry, very similar careers as far as childhood, player, manager, executive, and very similar as far as reputation-wise. You hear all the time about a Terry Francona type person and says you can't find a guy in the game of baseball played with, against, played for, or against his teams as manager that really have a negative word to say about Terry Francona. I haven't met the guy, if there is one out there, similar to like a Bruce Bochy. There's no real negative connotations that surround the name of a Terry Francona. Much like and I'm biased, of course, but I'm pretty realistic when I say there's not too many people in the game that have a negative word to say about Bob Boone. Impeccable character.
Exactly.
I've talked about it on the show before. Yes, he's my father. I love him in that capacity, but he really does have that reputation. It goes beyond the father thing. It goes beyond baseball people and people that have been in my life in a professional capacity. Bob Boone is one of the top men, just men in general, good men that I've ever met. And, there's not too many people that have that reputation, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, you mentioned Bruce Bochy, and even Uncle Arnie had a comment the other day about Terry because now and of course typical Terry, he doesn't want. They're going to do a video tribute tonight, and I think they're going to pass out T-shirts, but he doesn't want all the fanfare and all that sort of thing. But I just. Like Uncle Arnie had something great to say about him. Bochy had something to say about him, and I'm not trying to get all sentimental here. He's made mistakes like everybody else, but I guess that rant that you heard coming in that you were not paying attention to, but the rant was about like, man, I know it's been a frustrating year, and yeah, I mean everybody when you lose Booney, and you're expected to do much better. There's a lot of factors. There's not one. You had a ton of injuries. The front office really blew some things when it came to free agent acquisitions in the offseason. And yeah, your manager probably, he probably missed a few along the way. Everything happens. But my God, like when I hear people say like, oh, and this is not everybody. This is a small fraction of the fan base. But just hearing people say like, yeah, it's more than time for him to go. God, if you think this year is on Terry Francona, I don't know what to tell you.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. That Guardian team's not that good. I like the future. I like that young rotation that was kind of brought in maybe ahead of schedule and not like they planned. But I think it's the future looks bright with the young pitchers they have in the starting rotation under control for the next 3 years. I think the future could be bright. This offseason is going to be big for the Guardians as far as going out and getting some pieces that really complement what they already have in place. So it's definitely not one of those years where, wow, and now we're behind the 8 ball and we're in trouble and we got a lot of work to do. No, I like the future of the Guardians if done right. To put it on Terry, no, look at this team. Look at this roster on paper. They blow you away? No. I thought they should have done. I expected them to be a little bit better in that Central and make a little more of a run and a push towards competing with the Minnesota Twins, but it wasn't in the cards this year. But I don't sit there, like I'm looking at a Mets or a Padres at the beginning of the season and go, wow, what happened with that level of talent that remained pretty healthy for the entire year to get blown away in their own division? Now, that's an internal problem where, yes, somebody's got to be held liable for that. But in the Guardian situation, I look at that roster. They're solid. They're a quality team. But it doesn't surprise me one bit if they don't go to the postseason. The good thing with the Guardians is there's a good base there. It's got I don't want to use this because it seems like an intellectual tool. It's got good bones, Chico. And I think going forward,
good DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. Yeah,
I think with a good offseason and smart moves being made, this team could be really good. Like right now, and I'm talking 2024. So it'll be good. Everything Terry gets, well deserved. And I don't look at this in today's game, the comings and goings. I don't look at it as he's this geriatric old man that's going to go off in the sunset and we're never going to see Terry Francona again. Who knows what can happen? We already mentioned him, Bruce Bochy.
Yeah.
Look at what happened there. He stepped away, won 3 World Series in San Francisco, had an unbelievable run.
Especially with lifers, because that's just it. This is all he knows.
Right. Stepped away. He had some health concerns, had some things that were plaguing him. He stepped away, got those taken care of, got him under control. And the funny thing about Boch is I got to play for him 1 year, and it was awesome. He's everything that everybody says about him. But he came on my show. He came on my podcast probably 2 years ago. And we did it. And I remember I getting a call from Boch about 6 months later. Hey, Booney, this podcast thing, people are asking me to do one. What do you think? And I'm laughing. He's calling me for advice. And I said, Boch, let me just tell you, if expect to spend a lot of time, it's a podcast and it's this and that, but there's a lot more to it behind the scenes and research. I said, I don't know if you want that at this stage in your life. It's a lot of work. Obviously you're Bruce Bochy. You can get a lot of guests and you can make phone calls through your contacts through the years. But I said, it's not going to be one of those things where you can just mail it in. You got to do it. Yeah. In Boch's own ways, like, yeah, Booney, I got some people reaching out. They want me to do it. I said, Boch, I'm here to help you in any way. If you, and not that I was the big veteran podcaster at the time. I had just started. I was a year in.
Oh, you're grizzled veteran.
Anything I can tell you, Boch, that I'm fine. So it was funny. And then next thing you know, he signs with Texas and manages. You could just tell. He came on the show. He reached out because he was looking for something to do. He's done this his whole life. His health was getting better. He was starting to feel good. And I think that baseball itch was just coming. I thought a year before when Melvin got the job in San Diego, I was floored that Boch wasn't, you were hearing his name, but I'm thinking, well, it makes perfect sense if Bochy's going to return to the Padres. He ends up returning to Texas. That whatever Texas said in their pitch to Bruce Bochy obviously hit a spot with him and made him want to do it. But I look at him as I look at Francona. It's like, yeah, this chapter right now, the Cleveland Guardians, he's closing it. He's stepping away. Who knows what's going to happen in the future? 2 years from now, we could be hearing of a Terry Francona coming back, and it wouldn't surprise me one bit. But if this is it for him, definitely has put his stamp on the game and just done a lot of great things, some world championships mixed in there, but definitely he's left his mark on the game, and a lot of people in this game are going to miss him. But I don't look at it as, oh, this is I look at it nowadays when guys retire. It's like when Fleetwood Mac goes on their last,
Like, all of a sudden, Boom just perked up. He just said
Fleetwood Mac's going on their last and final tour until 2 years from now, after the band breaks up and gets back together, we're going to do another one. So I don't look at it as he's gone forever.
He's Bret Boone, former All-Star second baseman, joining us here at the Chico Borman Show with Michael Bohm, prominent member of this show. And Booney joins us each and every Wednesday during the season. He's the host of the Bret Boone podcast. All right, so I mentioned that this time of the year, I mean, yeah, October's right around the corner, baseball playoffs, but the playoffs before the playoffs are just as exciting because really, when you're in the hunt, and I'm speaking as a fan, obviously, I can't speak as a player, but as a fan, like you really are hanging on every pitch. You're not in the game now. You're watching. I mean, are you? Booney, you're a fan at heart. I mean, the Seattle Mariners right now, if they win tonight, they're not lock up. They're in the third and final spot for the wild card. Last night, a great outing by George Kirby. So, are you on the edge of your seat? I know you got to play the calm, cool, and collected, but come on, man, you're a fan at heart too.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm on the edge of my seat. I mean, a part of me, yeah, I'd like to see the Mariners get in, but my world's not going to stop spinning if they don't. You know what I'm saying?
You got golf to play, for God's sake. You got that
correct
2 handicap to work on.
I'm more interested in this race in the American League, for the wild card.
Yeah,
I think it's really interesting because I think it's so much different than the National League. I really don't think there's many. Outside of the Dodgers and the Braves, who are clear to me favorites. And I've become a Dodger guy recently in the last week or so. The Dodgers are better than I've been giving them credit for.
Oh, yeah, this is a little bit of a news bulletin because I know you've said that you like the Dodgers, but that the Braves are clear. Are you still saying, or are the Dodgers close the gap?
I think the Braves are still. If I have to rank them, yes, the Braves are the best team.
Fair.
But I'm not taking the Dodgers so lightly now in a head-to-head. I think the Dodgers, if they get hot at the right time, could beat anybody. Dodgers could win the World Series. They're good enough. The Braves, obviously, I still think if I have to rank these teams, yes, I'm still putting the Braves number one. But the Dodgers are close. The only team I look in the National League, I look at Philadelphia. They're in. I look at Arizona, Chicago, Miami, and Cincinnati fighting for 2 wild card spots. Okay, that's going to be fun to watch, whatever. Whoever gets in there, I still don't think has a chance in hell of winning the pennant in the National League. I think there's 3 teams. The only team that could upset the Dodgers or the Braves, I think, is the Milwaukee Brewers from their pitching because their pitching is so strong. They're the only team. But outside of their pitching, they can't match up with the Braves and the Dodgers in any other capacity on the field. But they could upset. I don't look at Philly as a real threat this year. A year ago, caught lightning in a bottle, good team, essentially the same team. I don't think you can do it 2 years in a row, and I don't think they're good enough and have improved enough to be a World Series caliber. That's just my opinion. Now, you move to the American League, Chico. Baltimore, Texas, Minnesota, 3 are winning the division right now. 2 have clinched. So let's say it finishes Baltimore, Texas, Minnesota. Now you got Tampa Bay, Toronto, or Tampa Bay's clinched the wild card spot. Now you got Toronto, Houston, and Seattle fighting for 2 spots. I look at all 7 teams, with the exception of the Minnesota Twins. It wouldn't surprise me if any one of those other teams win the pennant in the American League.
Yeah.
That's what I think the difference is between the National League and the American League. American League, percentage-wise, and when percentage I mean the amount of teams, I think it's stronger right now. But the top teams in the National League, just as good as the American. But in bulk, the American League is better. There's more choices that could be the representative going to the World Series this year.
Okay, so I got to close with this. Great stuff from Boone today, and you too, Boom, here on the Chico Borman Show on the Big Play Sports Network.
I got a personal question for Boom. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead, Chico.
Actually, it's funny that you say because I've got to be delicate about this, and of course, as you know, I will. I mean, that's why you're such a huge fan of the show, and you give us your time every week. So, in light of the Travis Kelce, Tay-Tay, Taylor Swift, all the hubbub, who was like there had to be somebody that you played with all those years that who was the biggest catch, if you can say it. If you can't, I respect
what?
The biggest catch, like when you said, "Oh wow," because I mean, you all of them seemingly have very good, but I'm saying like a not a superstar at Taylor Swift's level, but like an actress, like I think of David Justice and Halle Berry, something like who were some of those that you played with? It was like, oh man, did you really? How did you do that? How, you shot your shot, as the kids say. Like who were some of those? If you can.
No, I mean, well, then you're getting into pillow talk. I got to be careful what I say here. Let me just go for the ones on record.
Pillow talk.
Good buddy of mine, Chuck Finley, married Tawny Katane.
Yes. And
she's passed away, and I mean, that's a real sad deal. But at the time, let's put it in a friendly light. It's at the time, it's like, Chuck played with my dad. Now all of a sudden I'm playing against Chuck. I remember 2001 playing the Cleveland Indians.
I was just going to say, yep.
And I remember coming out of the clubhouse and walking past Tawny Katane, and I'm thinking, I go back to my youth and go, hey, that's the White Snake kid. that's Finley's wife, So it's stuff like that we look from a distance. It seemed like the Dodgers players were always dating celebrities and Hollywood girls. Obviously Derek Jeter and the Yankees. Seemed like they were always dating actresses and stuff. But I was just in Seattle. I was in Cincinnati. We just married regular old girls, man. We just married regular old moms.
Remember. So I was. I promise we'll end with this, but I remember when I was in college, mid to late 90s, and I've talked to you about your time in Atlanta. So my cousin was getting his master's at Georgia State, and because I was a poor college kid, a couple times, I'd fly Value Jet, which then it was like $50 round trip, but you pretty much might have been signing your life away flying them. But they do
it was 2000 for a backpack.
Exactly. But you'd fly. I would go see him in Atlanta for like spring break or summertime even. And we would go to Braves games. And I just remember thinking like, and again, we don't need to but thinking like listening to girls behind me and around me at the game talk about Chipper Jones. And I remember thinking like, if that dude, I don't want to get in. I would think Chipper would probably, and he did, but forget it. We're not gonna. I can't. I don't want to do this to you.
You don't know how to. Right. You don't know how to shoehorn it in.
No, I just.
You're struggling with.
I mean, I want to. I know what I want to say, but I can't say it because I respect you and I respect. Bohm's got a reputation to uphold. I can't be putting. I can't be putting him on the line like that. But yeah, I was just curious. I think Chuck Finley, Tawny Katane's a very good one. Justice and Halle Berry would have been before you, but
Justice and Halle Berry were when I was a young player. We did a
Hallie Clevelander, by the way, Halle Berry.
We did a Pepsi Challenge softball game / golf in Las. No, it was in. Was it Palm Springs or Arizona?
And
I
you
think it was
took her
Palm
deep,
Springs.
just like you did Jenny Finch.
No, and Hallie was there, and Halle Berry was big at the time, and that was just as she was on the field with us.
Yeah.
And I wasn't impressed.
Wow.
No, and it has has nothing to do with appearance.
Okay.
Wasn't impressed with the rhetoric. And I love David. I love David Just. They're divorced now, so it doesn't really matter.
Right.
But yeah, I met her. I wasn't walk away going, "Oh, she was so nice." Put it that way. I didn't walk away and say Halle Berry was so nice.
It's just, I guess the only thing, and again, in light of the Kelsey.
I was a kid. I don't remember. That was 1994.
Right. Count on me. This is why you probably want to talk to Bo more than you want to talk to me, because, like, if you talk to me, like, where is Chico leading this conversation right now?
Yeah, Chico's trying to get Boone in trouble.
Boom, do you have any more questions for our Ask Booney segment with the former pro player?
I did have a Ken Kesey question, but I could save that for next week.
Who is that?
Who's that?
Ken Kesey, the umpire?
Ken Kaiser?
Or is it Ken Kaiser? Oh, Ken Kaiser. Sorry.
Come on,
Kaiser.
Boom.
Are you
Kesey.
kidding me?
Kesey.
Kaiser's a legendary guy.
Yeah. What do you?
He couldn't stand me.
I saw a highlight of him where he just takes a fastball right to the face, like to the mask.
Oh yeah, then he rolls it back out to the left-hander on the mound. I forget who the left-hander was. That guy was a piece of work. He would have his Kenny Kaiser. How about this? I'm in Milwaukee. I hit a ball down a right field line, cue ball. It kicks, gets the perfect spin, bouncing around in the corner, goes past. My first inside the park home run. I'm safe by 2 feet. I'm a young player. Kenny calls me out. I go crazy. I don't get thrown out.
Uncle Arnie? Did it rival an Uncle Arnie?
Yes.
Okay, good. I like that. All right.
I hit one, my next at bat, as far as I can hit it. I step on home plate. I said, "Is that a homer? Am I safe there?" I'll never forget that with Kenny Kaiser. And to the day he retired, I used to walk up to him and go, "You know what? The end of my career, whatever amount of home runs I end up with, add one more because you took it away from me." And by that time he's laughing about it. But yeah, I was safe by several feet.
You probably had great stories with Don.
Kenny Kaiser was a jerk to me when I was a kid.
Don Donaldson or Denkinger or who do you?
Denkinger.
Yeah,
I think Denkinger.
I'm making fun of Boone now.
Yeah, I don't know.
Ken Kesey, come on, man.
Kesey. I mean that's like. I don't know. It's like if you're talking about Tom Cruise and you call him Cruzzy.
Yeah,
it's about equal. It's about equal.
Boom.
Come on, Boom.
I thought you were talking. Honestly, I thought you were talking about a rapper or a singer. I really did.
Or like a TikTok blogger.
Yes, which neither of us would know anything about.
Come on.
Booney, you really kicked ass today, buddy. And I try to divert. I tried to. You know what? Let's create a segment called Pillow Talk with Chico.
How to get Boone in trouble.
You played that. You've got that politician thing down pat. The way you danced all around that. And
when it comes to that stuff, I have to be.
Yeah, you do. Booney, we love you. Oh, the podcast, Bob Nightingale. I saw you had on.
Big Nightingale on today.
Love
Break
him.
It down, our insider. Yeah.
Good stuff. And you had Jim Thome. Jim Thome recently.
Jim Thome. We got coming up. We've got we're gonna stick with the theme of postseason and guys that do this. That's what they're doing on a daily basis is watching these games and break. Tyler Kepner next week, and we're gonna have a old teammate of mine. I haven't talked to him in years and years, but I thought about it.
David Justice.
Mark DeRosa, MLB Network.
From
MLB
Braves,
Network. He was a teammate of mine with the Braves when he was a young player. He'll have some fun stories. He's really good friends with Walt Weiss, who's one of my all-time favorites.
Hey,
He's got that similar personality.
Earlier in the
He's a
season,
fun guy.
I made a request to you, and I realize it's kind of tough in season, but now you have to get Terry Francona on the podcast. You have to.
Yeah. Yes.
I will be calling nonstop. Booney, it's Chico again. Just wondering if you had a chance to track down Tito. for the podcast.
Yes.
All right, Booney, you did yeoman's work today dealing with me and Bohm.
Yes.
And
That's
again,
what I do.
pillow talk with Chico. We'll do it again next Wednesday. Maybe not the pillow talk, but we appreciate it as always. You keep up the great work and keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars, Booney.
You got it. Any other pun you got for me? Send my way via text.
That's all we got. See you, buddy.
See ya.
Bohm, I tell you what, Bohm, you're becoming not. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, I'm a little embarrassed.
Well, the Kesey thing, that's not even like
I hijacked the start of the interview.
but it
I'm
was
sorry.
hilarious. No, that's why. Like, I'm not gonna say this. We're very open on this show. Sometimes I'm too much and I get in trouble because I say things I shouldn't and call out people I shouldn't. But, Boom, like there are times you drive me absolutely freaking nuts. But this is why I love having you on the show, because I don't know you're going to go that. It's not like you told me, hey, Chico, I've got a personal question I wanted to ask Booney. Because you know damn well if you told me that, I'd be like, you know what? No, why don't you run it by me for. And I don't like to do that, like fair or foul, which we have coming up. I don't like to know this stuff. And I like, save it for the air, right?
Yeah.
But that was very smart on your part, even though I'm mad at you for it. You didn't run it by me to start.
I thought about it.
No, yeah, that's personal and then Ken Kesey. I thought it was a rapper. I thought you were gonna say Chico doesn't know, and I figured you.
I don't know where I got that name from. I don't know how I mixed that up because I literally just read it last night. I saw that highlight, and that play was amazing. He called the next two strikes balls, and then he just throws the manager out for the White Sox, and they get so into it. And this was the old days, right? So you could kind of pick up what they were saying. You could hear some of the words,
right?
And it's just phenomenal baseball argument back and forth.
Well, that's why his nickname was always Easy Kesey.
I'm sure it was.
We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll have a little fair or foul. And I've got a little side note to that Mariners game last night. Talk about things that we haven't ever seen. On a field, Myles Garrett getting shadowed by two tight ends going in motion, and he wasn't in motion. Something I didn't see live. I heard about it, and I've never heard of this before. We'll talk about that when we come back as well. Winding it down, it's a Wednesday. It's the Chico Borman Show, and it's all right here on the Big Play Sports Network. Don't go anywhere. Alrighty, welcome back. Chico Borman Show on this Wednesday afternoon. Good to have you along. Coming up on tomorrow's show, fantasy football and breaking down the first 3 weeks of the season with our buddy Eric Casilius. He was unable to join us last week, so I'm sure he'll have plenty to say. And unlike Boone is engaged while he's waiting in the green room, Boone taking a nap there. Then again, I can't really blame him. All right, folks, first of all, let me tell you this. We're all looking for a lot of different things during football season, wins, and we also are looking for bet credits for the football season. And the Big Play Network, well, we've got them for you because of our friends at Tipico Sportsbook. The Tipico Sportsbook app has your traditional bets like the money line, spread, and point totals, but also lock in player props. Check out our Big Play Boosts every single week to back your favorite Cleveland teams and athletes with the best odds in Ohio. Get in the action. Load up for football season using promo code BIGPLAY150, also Chico150, to get $150 in bet credits on us, plus a $30 dog pound bet. Bet with the Big Play crew all season long right here with Tipico Sportsbook and the Big Play Sports Network. All right, I'll tell you what. I'll get to the note on the Mariners game to end because I can only imagine what you have in store after your performance today, Bohm. I'm on the edge of my seat, waiting to see what you have in store for us on Fair or Foul. So go ahead.
Well, I've got quite a bit on tap for you today, Chico, on this edition of Fair or Foul.
Anything on Ken Kesey?
This this fictional character that apparently doesn't exist. No, I have no further sentiments on the matter.
I have no further statement, Your Honor.
So, Chico, I want to ask you about Davante Adams, because he did come out and kind of blast the organization, including saying such things as, quote, "We're not doing things the right way to establish a winning culture." Now, there is, per Matt Lombardo, who covers the NFL, a list of 6 potential destinations for Davante Adams, rumored to be, like, potentially could go after him. The Browns are on that list, Chico. You got the Cowboys, Bengals, 49ers, Lions, Packers, and Browns. Oh, my. Fair or foul, Chico? The Browns should target Davante Adams.
I mean, I'm going to say what I said yesterday with Jerry. If you, of course, you can bring a guy like. I don't know what it's going to.
Do you think you can't? So you don't have a first-round pick next year, right? That was traded in the Deshaun deal.
Yeah, you'd have to. I'm guessing a player would be involved here.
Have to.
Picks as well. But what is he? First of all, what does he do on his contract? I mean, it's kind of.
Oh, you're asking like what he's making?
Yeah.
Well, the Browns do have the most cap room in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, yes, they're gonna have to. But now, here's the thing, though. This is where I guess, and this is the point. Don't worry about the contract. You're going for it. You're going all in. I just got done talking about opening the show about this elite defense, and they have not had a defense on paper and on the field through 3 games as elite as this since they've come back in the league. And I can say that with the utmost confidence. Not even close. You have a quarterback that obviously, sooner rather than later. So if you can add a guy, you certainly lost a weapon in Nick Chubb. Davante Adams, I know, doesn't play that position. Davante Adams is not Nick Chubb, but I'm just saying, you look into it. You look into Jerry Jeudy. They're going to be on all of these lists because, A, yes, they've got a lot of room. B, they're all in right now. And, the division, I think, is very much up for grabs the way that things have played out and probably will play out. So, yeah, why not?
Now, that would make for a very crowded receiver room, like we talked about with Jeudy. But, yeah, I agree. You got to do your due diligence, Chico, as they say.
I would wonder, here's the thing, though. Unlike Jerry Jeudy, and Davante Adams is clearly an elite wide receiver. Mm-hmm. Unlike Jerry Jeudy, I don't know if Davante Adams would be okay with, with this in Cleveland, and I don't care what anybody says, oh, roll your eyes and Chico, man, relax. culture's a big deal, and if this guy isn't happy with the amount of touches or targets, and I don't want to deal with that. But in terms of like his ability, hell yeah. I mean, see.
And Adams was not the first one to vent his frustrations this season with the Raiders, as if you'll recall, Chandler Jones had some pretty negative comments towards the franchise as well. And I don't want to get into that whole situation, but I only say that as a reference point for also what's going on with the New York Jets, because we're seeing in-game players yelling at coaches. We're hearing reports from Rich Cimini how Jets defensive players are very unhappy with Saleh's trust in quarterback Zach Wilson. And what do you do to respond? Oh, Trevor Siemian into the practice squad. Yeah, great move, Saleh. Okay.
What do you want Saleh to do?
No, I know it's a really tough spot, but at some point you might have to pull the plug on Wilson.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree, but we act like there's just somebody. I mean, I could see if that player's on your roster. Look, sorry to cut you off the question, but like here's the deal. And the Jets have been a dysfunctional organization and all that sort of thing. We can get into that. But here's what it boils down to. You lost Aaron Rodgers 4 snaps into the game into the season. Like,
tragic.
It's not just going to oh, well, I mean, now can you do better than Zach Wilson? Probably, but let's not act like Robert Saleh's looking at him, some dude that's just he's right there on the sideline. Like, you keep hearing about Kirk Cousins. Great, make the deal. It's not Saleh's fault. I mean, he's trying to he's got to say the good things about Zach Wilson because he's fragile. He's fragile. I mean, he's going to back his QB. It's not Saleh's fault, though.
With that in mind, though, regardless of how much it isn't Saleh's fault, it always usually seems to blow back in the coach's face. And so with that, I want to ask you, Chico, fair or foul, the Jets organization falls apart and starts firing everyone before the Raiders?
Foul.
You think the Raiders are going to fall apart first?
Saleh's a good coach. McDaniels hasn't proven himself. McDaniels is a good offensive coordinator, but it's not like even when the Raiders and the Browns, fans want. He's a great name. He's a great offensive mind. He's a great offensive coordinator. But as far as leading men and leading a football team in the National Football League, I mean, it didn't work once. Then he left another organization at the altar, and now in Vegas, everybody, nobody likes him. And I mean, it's not like they had the situation with as far as the Jets. This is, and I'm saying it does go beyond Josh McDaniels. But as far as the Jets are concerned, if they fire Robert Saleh, shame on them. It's not his fault.
And I agree with you. And at the end of the day, I am 100 times out of 100 taking Saleh as head coach over Josh McDaniels.
I'd take Robert Saleh over a lot of guys in the NFL. Right?
It just feels like he was put into a really tough spot. And losing Aaron Rodgers is the most disappointing situation in all of the NFL.
Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, I understand the Jets' frustration, the fans' frustration, but
what do? You
lose Aaron Rodgers. It's not like you're just like, oh, yeah, well, we'll bring... Again, not a video game.
Yeah. I feel like if you're the Jets, though, you've got to make some move. I mean,
I think I would guess they probably are trying to, like, are they talking to the Minnesota Vikings about Kirk Cousins? They're 0-3, Minnesota. They might be, but I just don't think it's something you can just snap your fingers and go to the waiver wire in your fantasy league and go, you know who's available? Kirk Cousins just got dropped. Johnny just dropped Kirk Cousins. Let's go grab him. It doesn't work that way in real life.
Wait, guys, it was an accident. I want Kirk back. Could you drop him for me?
That choking incident wasn't an act. That was for real.
I thought that was part of the act.
No, I tried to play it off, but I tried to yell.
Sometimes you just got to roll with the punches, baby.
Drink water as I did that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
All right, well, I want to ask you about Chad Johnson or Ocho Cinco. I don't know which one he's rolling with nowadays. He was inducted into the Bengals Ring of Honor over the weekend, and he appeared on a podcast with Shannon Sharp, basically making his case for why he should be a Hall of Famer. And Shannon Sharp said he shouldn't have been. Talking about how there were so many better receivers out there in his time. Like, you had Marvin Harrison Sr., you had T.O.
Both are in, by the way.
Yeah. amongst many others, but from what I recall, and I was a young kid at the time, Chad Ochocinco was right up there as one of the elite in his era. So I want to ask you, fair or foul, Chico, do you think that Chad Johnson / Ochocinco is a Hall of Famer?
Okay, so I've said this before. When it comes to any Hall of Fame discussion, whatever sport, like I put a lot of stock in what my immediate thought is. My immediate thought is no, and I'll tell you why. But again, I could be wrong on this. How long did Chad Ochocinco play?
That's a good question.
I mean, he was a dominant receiver. He was again, I mean, that's why I said it's not fair to Marvin Harrison and Terrell Owens. I mean, a lot of guys aren't those guys, and they're in the Hall of Fame for a reason.
11 seasons.
Wow.
I forgot he played for the Patriots.
Yeah. Okay. So give me how long was he with the Bengals? Because I'm trying to go back. He was a dominant receiver, but I don't know if he tailed
Bengals
off.
2001 to 2010.
Okay.
3-time first team All-Pro, 6-time Pro Bowl, receiving yards leader in 06, second team All-Pro in 03.
What did he do in like 09 and like the last 2 seasons? What did he do?
Oh man, I don't have the exact stats up here.
Okay, because I'm just what I'm trying to figure out is like, did he just really fall off a cliff? Because if I'm not saying he had to be all pro. Go ahead.
Okay, so starting with 09, 72 receptions, 1,047 yards, 9 touchdowns. Also had 3 rushes that year. And then his final year in Cincy 2010, he followed that up with 67 receptions, 831 yards, and 4 tutties. So
Okay.
that's not an awful ending.
No, and you know what this boils down to? I mean, and it's not even a secret anymore. 1,000 yards doesn't mean anything in today. But I think, was he a Hall of Fame player in his era? Yes. But I think now, if you don't get in, like sooner rather than later, all of a sudden people look at stats and they just go, 1,000-yard season. What the hell? Yeah, that's no big deal. I mean, that's just how it is. It's kind of like we've talked about it with Josh Cribbs. Like, special teams doesn't mean anything anymore. Should that affect Josh Cribbs and his viability to get in the Hall of Fame? I don't think so at all. But will it or has it? Yeah, unfortunately. And I think that's the way we look at wide receivers now. It's like, 1,000-yard season, that's great. You start talking now with like 1,500. I mean, that's the reality of it.
Now, interestingly, just looking at Chad Johnson's numbers, since we're already down the rabbit hole, he had 5 consecutive seasons of at least 87 receptions. Only one of them was below 90.
Okay, how many yards and touchdowns?
Well over 1,000 each year.
Yeah.
His lowest in that span was 1,274. Everything else was more than that.
Yeah, see, I think in his generation, for his era, his time playing, he was absolutely one of the best at his position. But again, if you don't get in kind of right away, then all of a sudden, that's interesting. I would have said no, and I think I would go against myself now. After knowing that, I would say, yeah, I think he deserves to be in.
Decent numbers.
Yeah.
I'll give him that. All right. Well, let's close it out with an interesting one, Chico. Let me set up this NIL deal for you from courtesy of Iowa State football. So the Iowa Pork Producers Association has signed 4 Iowa State Cyclones.
You said pork or port?
Yeah, pork.
Pork.
Yeah.
Oink, oink. All right.
Yeah, so they've signed 4 Iowa State players to deals. Let me just read you the names here, see if we could put the pieces together. So we've got defensive back Miles Purchase, tight end Tyler Moore, defensive lineman Tommy Hammond, and linebacker Caleb Bacon. So you put those 4 last names together: Purchase, Moore, Hammond, Bacon. Fair or foul, Chico? Greatest NIL deal ever.
I mean, fair or foul, it's an awesome NIL deal. Yes. I was trying to figure out, so you're going through and I'm like, Purchase, it really doesn't have much. The Bacon one made sense. The Hammond made sense. And I'm like, what's more? But now when you get them all together,
Yeah.
hell, why not? It's creative.
And
Yeah.
so there's a photo of them with, you just see like the back of their jerseys standing
ham,
next to each other.
Purchase more ham and bacon.
And then you've got the little spread out behind them, on the table. I love it.
Why not? Yeah, why not? Wow, that's a nice looking jet.
All right, well, that's going to do it for Fair or Foul. I got to get a look at this jet.
It just boom.
I'm just kidding.
All right.
I'm not looking.
No. All right. Real quick, I just wanted to mention this. The Mariners game last night. So a foul ball was hit. Not a home run. A foul ball was hit. And the game was in Seattle. And a fan, and it was a young, no, I wouldn't say young. When I say young, I mean like, I don't know, 14, 15 years old, I guess. Threw the foul ball back on the field, actually threw it at the Mariners pitcher and like hit him in the ab. He wasn't hurt, obviously, the guy not throwing it. But the kid's response was, well, I didn't know what to do with it. I thought because he claimed, because he got tossed out and the fans around him narked on it, like, yeah, it was him, totally. So his response was, I thought it's at home. They need as many baseballs as they can to continue play. And he's like, that's why I threw it back. And so somebody out there, not many, but some people out there are going, well, he's a young kid. I never once thought, like, as that's one of the perks as a kid or teenager, I don't care how old you are, like you go to a game, like, oh, wow, the chance to get a foul ball. I can't imagine that kid is honestly thinking like, oh, I wonder if they run out of baseballs. I better get this back into them.
Yeah, like, have you never watched a baseball game and just suddenly decided to show up to this one? That just, I don't know. It's a little suspicious, guy.
What would Ken Kesey say about that, Boone?
Throw him out of the game.
What would Kesey would say? Hey,
it's Enrico Palazzo.
I might be easy Kesey, but I'm not tolerating this. You're right, Boone. It seemed like you had a stroke midway through that one.
Maybe I did.
All right. Well,
that would explain some things.
I hope you're okay. All right. We're out of time on this Wednesday. Thanks to Bret Boone for joining us and playing along with Bohm's antics as well. We had a fun time here on this Wednesday. I'll be back with you again tomorrow. Chico Borman Show, noon to 2, and we're going to get back into the gridiron. Eric Casillas. Your fantasy football questions and what does he think of this Browns team and this Browns defense specifically through 3 games. That comes your way tomorrow at noon. For Michael Bohm, all of us here, Big Play Sports. I'm Chico Borman. Make it a great rest of your Wednesday, everybody. See you.